Chapter 1. Derek Williams carried the last of the boxes into his new apartment and kicked the door shut behind him. The apartment was small, but it was perfect for a veterinarian who had just graduated and was ready to start paying off student loans and working in his first practice. He couldn't believe how excited he was to actually start doing what he'd been training for. He would be working for the Quinn Valley Hospital starting in an hour, but he needed to get just a couple more things unpacked first. Like his toothbrush and shampoo. He wanted to make a good first impression, and there was no way to do that if he showed up with bad breath and unwashed hair from moving all weekend. He'd expected it to get done a little faster, but he'd pulled a muscle in his shoulder, and it had slowed him down. Thankfully, there'd been a small furnished apartment in the quaint little town for him to move into, and he was excited to start work. He unearthed the box that said bathroom and opened it quickly, grabbing what he needed and carrying it into the bathroom. He'd unpack the rest of the box later. For now, he needed to get to work. One cold shower later, he was mostly ready for work. He'd have to call his landlord about the hot water situation, but at least he was clean. He locked his door and ran to his truck. He couldn't be late on his first day. Walking into the clinic, he introduced himself to the receptionist, who said her name was Karen. "I'm the new doctor here. Derek Williams." Karen smiled. "It's nice to meet you, Derek. Let me take you back and introduce you to everyone." When they walked into the office where he'd interviewed, they interrupted Joel, the other doctor and owner of the clinic, kissing one of the vet techs. "You've met Joel, and this is Haley. Ignore it when you walk in on them kissing. We all just pretend we don't see it and keep walking." Joel gave Karen a look and made a shooing motion with his hand. "I'll take over from here. Haley and I are getting married, so we're allowed to kiss, though maybe this isn't the location or time we should have chosen." He gave Haley a very boss-like look. "Aren't you supposed to be working?" "Oh, yes, sir, Dr. Quinn, sir." She winked at Derek and hurried out of the room. "I like to see this place isn't super formal. It's hard to be worried about minding your manners when you're dealing with animals all day." Derek reached up and rubbed his aching shoulder. "Did you get moved in all right?" Derek shrugged, immediately regretting the action. "Mostly. I pulled a muscle in my shoulder on Saturday, and it slowed me way down. I honestly carried the last box into my new apartment an hour ago." "How bad is the shoulder? Can you work?" "I'm honestly not sure, but I'm not going to miss my first day here." He'd worked for so long to become a vet, and now that he finally was, he was hurt. It was ridiculous in his opinion. "I'd offer to look at it, but I'm not so good with human injuries." Joel pulled his phone from his pocket. "Hey, Brooke. My new doctor just got here, and he pulled a muscle in his shoulder moving this weekend. Can you work him in?" "Crud. Thanks." He shook his head. "My twin is the local doc, but she has no room on her schedule today. She can't get you in until Wednesday. Let me try something else." He tapped something else on his screen. "Hey, Raina. I need a favor. Do you have an opening today?" He frowned. "Can you go in an hour early and see him? My new doc hurt his shoulder moving this weekend, and he looks like he's in a lot of pain." "I'd appreciate it." He grinned. "Thank you. See you in a few." "What was that?" Derek asked. "I'm not trying to get you to do anything for me." He was shocked that his new boss was making calls about his shoulder. It would heal on its own. Eventually. "I know. I'm just calling in a favor or two. I have a cat coming in this afternoon that I really need a second opinion on, and I want you to be up for working with him. So my cousin Raina is a massage therapist, and she's not going into work until 1 today, but she said she'd bring her table over here and work on you." He looked around him. "This is the best room for her to set up in, so I'm going to just put a note on the door to stay out. I really do need you to be in top shape. Something about the way Joel was talking made Derek a little nervous, but he was just thankful he'd be getting help with his shoulder. I appreciate you getting some help for me. Oh, Raina owes me one. I have a dog here she's about to adopt, and I've treated her for mange and neglect. Daisy's just about ready to move in with her, and I'm not making her pay the bill for all the care the dog has received. An early morning massage is the least she can do. Joel shrugged. Let me show you around. We have a few animals that were rescued from that abusive situation, still in the clinic. There's Daisy and Roscoe, and then the donkey that everyone insists my dog is in love with. He looked around. I think Stanley must be outside with Winnie now. He usually greets everyone who comes in. Come on, I'll introduce you. Derek wondered how a dog could be in love with a donkey, but he didn't want to ask. The situation sounded like a strange one, and sometimes it was just better not to know things. He followed Joel back to the front desk, where Joel spoke with the receptionist. Karen, Raina's going to be here in a few, and she's setting up a massage table in the office. Would you let her know where to set it up, and then let me know when she's here? We're going to go out and see if Stanley is hiding out with Winnie again. I'm pretty sure he is. Lovesick puppy. Karen grinned at Derek. You'll love Raina. Her massages are amazing. Derek grinned. I sure hope so. My shoulder needs amazing. Joel hurried out of the room, and Derek went after him. His whole body was sore from the move, and he wanted to tell Joel to slow down, but he didn't want to come across as a wimp on his first day of work. The kennels are this way. We made a special kennel to hold Winnie. She was too weak to lift her head up when we got her, but she's doing so well now. Sure enough, in a small area at the back of the clinic, there was a miniature donkey, followed closely by a big dog, who bounded over to greet Derek. The dog put a paw on each of his shoulders and seemed to look him in the face. He got a big lick on the cheek, which he assumed was a positive thing. Hi, Stanley. Done investigating him, Stanley went back over to Winnie, licking at a wound on her side. I take it this is Winnie? Joel nodded. She was rescued from the same place as Daisy, and Daisy has really only warmed up to Haley and me and my cousin Raina. We're not sure why she trusts Raina, but she did from the first. Joel opened a kennel and tried to coax a small gray dog toward the door. Daisy, Semir, Daisy. She crept out just a little and licked Joel's hand before going to the back of the kennel again. Derek crouched down to look at her. Is she a schnoodle? Yup. We couldn't tell when we first got her, because the mange was so bad, but she's healed a lot and fattened up a little. I think Raina can take her home after work today. She's got Tuesdays off, so she can spend the day with her and get her used to being there before she works again. Joel shook his head. I still want to personally strangle the people who hurt her, but I don't know that it would do any good, other than making me feel better. Derek felt badly for the little dog, and he stood straight again. I can't believe the way some people think animals should be treated. I'm glad you were there to take care of her. He'd once lost a dog to abuse, and he would never forget how it had made him feel. Me too. Joel's answer was heartfelt, and it gave Derek a huge insight into the other man's character. He wasn't a vet to make money. He was doing it for the sheer love of animals, as was Derek. In that moment, Derek knew they would work together well. Karen showed up. Hey, Raina is ready for you, Derek. She said to go back to the office. Derek nodded. Thanks for this, Joel. You go get the shoulder fixed so you're ready to see Sweetie this afternoon. That's the cat's name? Joel nodded. It is. Karen frowned at Joel. His first day? Hush, you. I'm the boss here, Joel said. Derek ignored them both as he walked toward the office and his first ever massage. He hoped she really could help him, because his shoulder hurt. He walked into the room where the massage was to take place to see a tiny pixie of a girl putting sheets on a massage table. She didn't look like she was big enough to really get into his muscles and do any good, but he really didn't know enough about massages to tell her that. "Hi, I'm Derek." Raina turned around and smiled at him, her eyes simply lighting up the room. "I'm Raina Quinn, Joel's cousin. Have you had a massage before?" He shook his head. "This is my first." "What do I do?" "Well, I'm pretty experienced, so I can help you out there. I want you to get undressed and get under the sheet. I don't know if you just want me to work on your shoulder or full body." "I think I need full body. The shoulder is the worst, but I moved everything I own this weekend. My whole body aches." He put a hand to his lower back, wondering if a massage could really help as much as people said it would. Raina smiled. "I understand. I just had to move back in with my parents because my landlord sold the house I was living in. I was so sore." "Which shoulder?" "The right." "Okay, strip and get under the sheet. You can leave your underwear on or take them off. I'm a professional, and I don't care either way." "All right." He was a little uncomfortable undressing around a pretty girl like this, but she was a professional. He carefully took his shirt off, trying not to bother his shoulder. Raina laughed. "No, wait till I'm out of the room. I'll come back in a couple of minutes and knock on the door. Let me know if you're ready and under the sheet." He blushed. "I wasn't sure. I didn't explain it well. I'll be back in a second." Asterisk. Raina dashed out of the room and shut the door, leaning up against it, her face on fire. She couldn't believe he just stood there taking his clothes off in front of her. She hadn't wanted to stop him after the shirt, but she'd done the polite thing, because she really was a professional. The man had a chest she couldn't wait to get her hands on. She closed her eyes and counted to 10. No, she couldn't think of him that way. He was a massage client, and as she'd told him, she was a professional. What was she thinking, lusting after his chest? And his shoulders. The man had shoulders that she wanted to just sink her teeth into. She rubbed her hands over her eyes, trying to get the mental image out of her brain. Where were these thoughts even coming from? Ugh. The man was sexy, but she'd massaged sexy men before. What was different about this one? She walked to the receptionist's desk for a minute. "So what's Dr. Sexy doing here?" she asked. Karen laughed. "Joel needed help. He's so busy, and he'd do anything not to have to see Sweetie ever again." "Sweetie?" Raina asked. She hadn't heard of Sweetie yet. "Mr. Jenkins's cat. The thing is a wild beast and absolutely brutal. Joel is mostly afraid of him, and he has been wanting to get another vet, just so he doesn't have to deal with that cat. Sweetie has an appointment this afternoon, and usually once a week. Mr. Jenkins dotes on him, and there's always some perceived complaint. Anyway, Derek has to be in top form to deal with Sweetie. I kind of think it's time for me to go smack my cousin really quickly." Karen grinned. "Video, or it didn't happen." "Oh, no worries there. I will video every second of it." Raina took a deep breath. "Okay, wish me luck. I'm going to have a hard time taking my hands off his body when I'm done." "I know exactly what you mean, but I have faith in you." Raina went back to the office and knocked softly. "Are you ready for me?" "Yup." She opened the door and squirted some lotion on her hands that she had hooked to a lotion holster strapped to her waist. "Let me know if the pressure is too light or too deep. Is the face cradle a good height? Or would you like it higher?" "Higher would be nice." Raina walked around and adjusted the face cradle. "How's that?" "Good. I think." "All right. I'm going to do a light massage of your whole back, and then I'm going to get into that shoulder. Let me know if I hurt you." He chuckled softly. "Do you really think your hands are strong enough to hurt me? You'd be surprised at how strong my hands are. I do this all day every day." She put her hands on his back and started working it over. She found a couple of knots she immediately worked on, getting them out before moving on. When she put her hands on his sore shoulder, he yelped. "Too much pressure?" she asked innocently. "Yeah. That hurt." "I understand. I will try not to hurt you." She grinned to herself. Big guys like him always thought that she was too weak to do much, but the truth was, she was pretty darn strong. She concentrated most of her attention on his sore shoulder, digging into the knots she found there. He grunted more than once and asked her to go softer yet again. When she finished there, she worked on his entire body. She lowered the sheet just a bit, saying a silent prayer that he was wearing underwear, and she breathed a sigh of relief that he'd kept them on. Never had she been this sexually attracted to a client. She felt like she was breaking every rule she'd ever learned about being a professional massage therapist. She only had about 15 minutes left when she instructed him to turn over, turning her face away and holding the sheet up so he could do so. She wanted to look so badly, but she didn't allow herself to. "Scoot down a little more," she instructed, putting the bolster back under his knees when he'd complied. "Any other complaints? How's it working for you so far?" Derek shook his head. "My shoulder feels a lot better, but I thought you were going to kill me for a minute there." Raina grinned. "Stronger than I look?" She loved when big strong guys were so astonished by how powerfully she could get into their muscles. It always amused her. Much. He kept his eyes closed throughout as she worked on his forearms and then his neck and his head. When she'd finished, she wiped her hands with a cloth. "I'm going to step out of the room while you dress." "Thank you, Raina." "You're very welcome." Raina left the room, closing the door behind her, and went back to the receptionist station. "Do you think Joel would mind if I went back and said hi to Daisy?" From behind her, Haley answered. "I know he wouldn't. I'll take you back." Raina grinned at her cousin's fiancé. "Thank you so much. I'm excited that I get to take her home this week." "Any idea when?" Haley grinned. "Joel said after you finish work today. He wants you to be home with her for a full day before you have to leave her alone, just so she can get used to you. She's liable to be really skittish. She doesn't even let my sister get close to her, and she's been around her every day since we brought her here." Raina frowned. "I sure hope she can get past what's happened to her. I'm going to take great care of her. And spoil her rotten." "I know you will. I'm going to bathe her and trim her nails for you this afternoon, and you can just come by when you get off work. Today's your short day, right?" "Yeah, Mondays I only work from 1 to 5. I sometimes do out calls on Monday mornings, like I did here. And then I'm off Tuesdays, and I work my butt off Wednesday through Saturday." "Are you going to the big party at your grandparents' for St. Patrick's Day on Sunday?" Haley opened the cage, and Daisy came right to her. She picked the dog up and handed her to Raina, who snuggled her against her chin. "I am. I'll probably even have Daisy with me. I want her to get used to being around people, and hopefully she won't always be so scared." Raina stroked the dog's fur. "You're the best dog in the whole wide world. Did you know that, Daisy?" Haley smiled as she watched Raina with the dog. "I'm a little nervous about a party with the whole family. I'm taking Claire. Claire will be just fine, and so will you. We're all thrilled you and Joel are getting married, you know. We have these parties for every occasion Grandma can think of, and it's a great time to meet new people who will be marrying into the family. Trust me, it's going to be fun. Is your family even Irish?" "Oh, yes. Quinn is derived from O'Quinn, a very Irish name, so yes, we're Irish, but we've been here forever. Grandma just likes parties. And she likes you and Claire, so it's going to be just fine. Raina reluctantly passed Daisy back to Haley. And now I need to go check on my client. All right. I'll see you this afternoon, and Daisy will be ready for you. Chapter 2. Derek left the office feeling so much better than he had when he'd gone in. He reached for his sore shoulder and flexed it a couple of times, but it was mostly better. He looked around for Raina and found her coming from the back. She grinned at him. Sorry, I was holding my baby for a minute. Baby? You mean Daisy? He said a silent prayer that he'd guessed right. He didn't want this woman to be married with a child. She didn't wear a wedding ring, but in her occupation, he wasn't sure he would either. Wouldn't it slide off with all the oil she used? Yes, Daisy. I get to take her home tonight. I'm so excited. He smiled. So what do I owe you for the massage? He asked, taking out his wallet. I owed Joel a favor. I probably still owe him a couple more, so square it up with him. You owe me nothing. She went into the office and pulled the sheets off her massage table, wadding them up and putting them into a bag she'd brought with her. Then she folded the table and slipped it back into a bag that was made just for it. Can I help you carry that at least? Nope. I got it. You can open the front door for me. Remember, I'm stronger than I look. She grinned up at him, wishing she had the courage to ask him out, but she'd always been taught that men should make the first move. I figured that out when you sank your fingers into my shoulder. I really thought you were going to make me pass out from pain for a minute there. She grinned. But the rest of the massage felt amazing, didn't it? It did. Derek shook his head. I might need to see you again sometime. I work at the Quinn Hotel and Spa. Either set something up with Joel or come see me there. She shrugged. I'd be happy to come back here if you need me to. He held the door for her as she lugged the table out to her car. Thank you again. You're very welcome. She stowed her table in the trunk and slowly got into the car, hoping he'd ask for her number or ask her out. When he did neither, she got behind the wheel and started her car. At least she knew where he worked. She could contact him if she needed to. Raina floated through the rest of her day, excited to get her puppy that afternoon, but equally excited that she'd met someone like Derek. She'd never been one to go after a man with all her heart, but she might be able to try out something different with this guy. She saw her sister Riley in the lobby of their little spa when they were both between clients. Joel has this sexy new doctor working for him, but I saw him first, she told Riley. Riley shook her head. He's all yours. I'm holding out for a billionaire. How many times do I have to tell you that? Right. I can see you married to a billionaire at one of the high society parties, and you start talking to everyone around you about which crystal would make them more confident in certain situations. Riley giggled. I'd be amazing. You're already amazing, little sister. Raina hurried off to her next client. She adored her younger sister. She was the third of 4 girls and the fourth of 5 children of Bob and April Lynn Quinn. April Lynn was the local redneck witch doctor, working on people with her computer and homeopathic medications. Bob was the owner and general manager of the hotel where their spa was located. They kept it all in the family as best they could. Bob Ling, her big brother, was the only one who didn't work for the hotel, but that was because he was off who knows where serving in the Marines. She was pretty proud of him and glad he wasn't around. He was a bit overbearing when his younger sisters dated. He'd be home in September or October, though, and she was ready to hug the stuffings out of him. He'd done a good job serving in the military, but it was time for him to be home with family again. When she stepped into the room, she grinned, knowing this massage was going to be special. Hi, Grandma. You have a sore spot? I'm old. All of me is sore. So I expect my granddaughter to help out on occasion. Of course. I'll do my best. As she got to work on her, her grandma asked the question she'd been dreading. How's your love life? Non-existent, same as it was the last time you asked, Grandma. Her grandmother made a sputtering sound. I think my friends and I are going to need to put our heads together and find someone for you since you're not trying to find anyone for yourself. I would really rather you didn't. I can handle finding the man I'll spend the rest of my life with. Obviously you can't, or you'd have done it by now. By the time I was your age, I was married to your grandfather and already had one child and another on the way. Don't you feel like you're failing the family by not carrying on the Quinn tradition of 5 children per generation? Not particularly. Raina quickly changed the subject. She didn't want her grandmother to really sink her teeth into the subject, or there would be no stopping her from meddling. As soon as she finished work for the night, she hurried down to her car, passing Roxy, her oldest sister, on her way. Could you have Siren deliver a few tacos to me tonight? Including a couple of doggy tacos? I'm on my way to the hospital to pick up Daisy. Oh, definitely. He won't mind. Siren was Roxy's new husband, and he owned a taco truck. His tacos were already something of legend in the area, and he'd been in business for less than a year. Raina patted her sister's belly. You coming in for a prenatal massage this week? I think it's time. Roxy nodded. I don't want to bug you, but I seriously need something. I'm so sore, and the events just aren't slowing down. Roxy was the event planner for the hotel, and she was always busy with some new party or another. She was also due in August, and she looked adorable with her cute little baby bump. Raina raised her hand in a wave as she hurried to her car, so ready to have Daisy in her possession. She had a harness in the car that had a seatbelt attached, so she could keep her safe in the vehicle. At home she had food, bowls, toys, and everything else she could think of. She'd gotten Daisy a crate to sleep in, just in case, but she hoped the dog would want to sleep with her. She was used to a crate, though, and Raina wasn't going to force her to sleep in a human bed if she wasn't comfortable with it. When she pulled up in front of the hospital, her hands were clammy, and she wasn't sure if it was excitement over finally taking Daisy home or excitement over seeing Derek again. The man made her heart beat faster. When she walked into the clinic, she spotted Haley out front with a small dog she was talking to its owner about. She didn't recognize the owner, which was odd in such a small town, but Joel was gaining a reputation, and people were driving to have their animals treated by him. After the woman left, Haley grinned at Raina. You ready to take your baby home? I'm so ready. I bought everything I might ever need. Did you give her a bath? I did, and she shook the whole time. You might want to bring her in for baths and nail trims rather than trying to do them yourself. She's still afraid of her own shadow after everything she went through. Raina frowned. I hope I can help her through it all. You can. Haley led her through to the kennel area, leaning down to get Daisy from her cage. There's my girl. She did so good in her bath. She held the dog in her arms, cuddling her close and talking softly to her. Are you ready to go home with your new mama? Raina took the dog from her friend and snuggled her under her chin. We're going home now, Daisy. No more kennels unless you just want to be in one. As they walked to the front of the clinic, Haley stayed at Raina's side. We've been talking about having a doggy daycare, but I think until we do, you may want to bring her in during the day anyway. She'll enjoy it, and she'll be safe here. Safe is good, Raina said. She looked down at the sweet dog in her arms, thinking about it. I might bring her up here. If it was good for the animal and she would have more chances to see Derek, it sounded like a good situation. When they got to the front, Raina saw that Derek was covered with scratches that were fresh and there were bandages all along his arms. "What happened to you?" She hadn't thought of being a veterinarian as a dangerous job, but from the looks of Derek, it just might be. "Sweetie happened to me. I now understand why Joel wanted another vet. Just so he'd never have to be the one to work on that cat again. She's evil." Derek shook his head. "I think I should go home and lick my wounds." Raina shook her head. "I can't believe Joel made you work on that beast on your first day here. He should be shot." "Probably. But I am the man he hired to work with him and do the tasks he didn't want to do." Derek shrugged. "Are you sure you know how to take care of her?" She thought for a moment about feigning ignorance to get him to spend time with her, but she decided that was beneath her. "I think so. It'll be hard to get her to not be afraid again, but I'm pretty sure I can handle it." He took a scrap of paper from the desk and wrote down his number, handing it to her. "If you realize you need help with anything at all, just give me a call." "Thank you. I really appreciate it." She knew she'd probably call Joel for any trouble though, and surely he knew that. She handed him the dog for a moment and wrote down her own number. "If you need someone to look at your shoulder, then you should let me know." She took Daisy back from him and handed him the paper. "I'm sure I'll see you around." "You definitely will." He watched her walk out to her car, wishing the cat scratches didn't itch so terribly. He had a lot of work to do to put his little apartment in order, and he didn't want to have to stop every 30 seconds to scratch. Raina got in her car and drove to her parents' house, wishing she still had her own place. She was watching for something, but she really wanted to buy and not live in a rental that could be pulled out from under her again. She wanted to move once more and then never again. When she got home, she carried the dog inside, taking her to the living room, where she sat down, holding her on her lap. "Are you scared?" Daisy stayed snuggled close to her, shaking. Raina felt for a moment like she'd done something wrong by taking the dog away from the clinic. She knew logically that Daisy wouldn't have been able to stay there forever, and when she left, she would have been scared regardless, but she still felt like she'd hurt her dog. Her mother walked into the living room a short while later. "You got her?" She sat down beside Raina and reached out to pet her. "Her fur is so soft." Daisy whimpered a little. "Mom, she's really scared," Raina said. Her mother snatched her hand away. "I didn't mean to frighten her." "I know you didn't. I'm not trying to be rude, but she is only comfortable with a couple of people, and she doesn't know you yet. I'm sure she'll be fine as soon as she gets to know you." There was a knock on the door, and her mother went to see who was there. "Siren. You brought us supper. This is why you're my favorite son-in-law." Siren nodded. "Roxy only told me to bring food for Raina and Daisy, but I figured you and Bob would like to eat as well." "You know how much I despise cooking," April Lynn said, her face spread into a grin. "I know it well. So, supper." He handed her 2 bags. "There are tacos in one bag, and I labeled which ones were for whom. I know Bob needs low sodium and leaner meats. So I made everyone's favorites." He looked over at Raina. "And I hope Daisy likes hers. I made her too, like I make for Stanley, but I have a feeling that she's not going to be able to eat both." Raina grinned. "We'll see. I haven't tried to feed her yet, so I have no idea what her appetite is like." She just knew the sweet dog had been all skin and bones when she'd first seen her, and she was never going to let her look like that again. The dog would know she was a princess now, instead of being mistreated like she had been. "Thank you so much for supper and for the delivery. I only deliver for family, but now my family is huge." He waved and left without being paid. Raina figured she'd catch him later. Raina laughed. "I guess he's learning what it means to be a Quinn." She got up and walked to the table, still holding Daisy. Her mother frowned. Are you really planning on eating while holding a dog in your lap? I'm afraid she'll be scared if I put her down. I got her a dog bed, but it's in my room. April Lynn put the tacos on the table. I'll go get the dog bed, and you can try her on it. I can't imagine you trying to eat while holding that silly dog. Raina frowned. Daisy was anything but silly. She drew her up and kissed the top of her little head. I'm just going to put you down while I eat. And you can have your tacos on your bed. Would you like that? Daisy just continued to look at her, still shaking visibly. Raina wished she knew what to do to make the dog trust her and her surroundings, but she'd just have to work on it a little at a time. Once she realized that she was going to be loved and not neglected, she would surely be all right. April Lynn came back and set the dog bed in the corner of the kitchen. There you go. Raina put Daisy down on her bed and watched her for a moment to see how she did. She stood on the bed shaking for a minute before sitting down. Raina found the tacos that were labeled for Daisy, and she unwrapped one, holding it out to the dog. Daisy sniffed it, and then her tongue cautiously came out to lick it. Then she took a small, dainty bite off the taco. She sure doesn't wolf things down like Stanley does. She's actually got some manners. April Lynn grinned. But you need to put the taco down. Do not get into the habit of hand-feeding that dog, or she'll never let you stop. Raina sighed. You're right. I just want to do everything for her to make up for the way she's been treated. I can understand that. April Lynn got some paper plates down and slid one across the table to her daughter. Your dad should be home in a few minutes. He had to stay for some hotel business. I wish he'd slow down a little. I still worry about his heart. You and me both, April Lynn said with a frown. Her husband had been taken to the hospital a few months before, and he'd had 2 stents put into his heart. That's when he'd finally taken on an assistant, but his whole family wished he'd take advantage of having her and cut his hours back. The door opened then, and Daisy let out a cry. Raina immediately reached for her, but she was already back to eating her taco. I need to eat my own meal and stop worrying about the dog, she said softly. Yes, you do. Her mother bit into her own taco, closing her eyes with pleasure. Siren makes the best tacos in the whole wide world. Bob sat down at the table. Tacos? Siren brought us tacos? I knew Roxy should have married him. Raina shook her head, getting up to wash her hands really quick. She sat back down and quickly ate her own tacos, worried that Daisy would need her. When she finished, she dug in the bag, hoping that Siren had remembered to add sapapillas, and she found them at the bottom. Dessert. You're going to have to marry someone really amazing for him to be a better son-in-law than Siren, her dad told her. It's not a competition, Raina said, thinking about Derek. She wasn't sure her dad would be altogether impressed with the young veterinarian, but it didn't matter, because she was impressed with him. After she'd finished eating, she threw away all of the paper products they'd used. I did the dishes, she announced, before picking up Daisy and carrying her back into the living room. She put on a show and vegetated for a few minutes before her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Raina? It was a deep voice that sounded suspiciously like Derek. She hoped his shoulder wasn't already hurting. Yes? It's Derek. I just wanted to see how you and Daisy were settling in. Raina grinned. We're good. We just finished supper. We both had tacos, and Daisy ate one all by herself. I was pretty impressed. You can't give dogs tacos, Derek told her. No, this is a special one the owner of the taco truck makes for dogs. Stanley has them all the time, so I know they're okay for dogs. Oh. I was worried for a minute there. I may not be super knowledgeable about animals, but my cousin is a vet, and I do pay attention. Sometimes. He chuckled. Well, I'm glad you're doing all right, then. He paused for a moment. So what are you doing Friday night? Raina was so excited for a moment she was worried she'd scare Daisy. I don't have any plans. She kept her voice casual, like handsome vets asked her out every night. I was thinking maybe I could take you somewhere in town to eat. Is there anything good? I would recommend Quinn's Pub, and that sounds really nice. Just let me know what time. She knew her mother was watching her, so she didn't dance a jig, but it was hard to resist. Let me tell you that on Thursday. I'm not sure what time I'll be getting out of the clinic every day. By then, I'll have a better idea. That sounds great. Take care of your cuts. Derek sighed. I will. Stupid cat. Raina laughed softly. At least you know you're needed. Yeah. Chapter 3. Raina was home alone with Daisy the next day, working at getting the dog to be a little less afraid. She put her harness and a leash on her and walked her through the quiet streets of Quinn Valley. She knew the streets would be much busier in a couple of months, when the tourist season started again, but for now, they were pleasant to walk through. Daisy sniffed everything around her, seemingly happy to be outside. She didn't look afraid until they ran into someone on the street, and then she cried, running back to Raina to pick her up. Raina just shook her head, smiling at Ambrosia, a store owner there in town. How are you today, Ambrosia? I'm fine, but I think something might be wrong with your little dog there. Ambrosia eyed the dog curiously. She's afraid of everything, and even dogs usually know I'm safe. Raina held Daisy close as she responded. She was a rescue. She's been horribly neglected, and she seems to be afraid of her own shadow at the moment. She's been in the hospital for weeks, and I was just able to pick her up yesterday. Poor thing. You might need to get her a couple of crystals. I'm sure I could get the crystal fairies to tell me just the ones she needs. Raina shook her head, hiding her amusement as she thought about trying to attach crystals to the dog's collar, or maybe in a barrel around her neck. I really appreciate the offer, but I think she might even be afraid of the fairies in the crystals. She liked to pretend that she believed fairies really did live in crystals when she talked to Ambrosia. Her sister Riley, a crystal healer, hated it so much, and it was a way to torment her even when she wasn't there. I think you may have a good point. Does Joel know how afraid she is? He does. I was one of the few people she wasn't afraid of, so that's why I was allowed to be the one to adopt her. Raina stroked Daisy carefully, trying to soothe her. I think she might need to go back to the hospital. She's a mess. With those words, Ambrosia walked away, and Raina kissed Daisy's head before putting her back on the ground. You may be a mess, Daisy, but you're my mess, and I love you for it. Thinking for a moment about what Ambrosia had said, she decided she would take her to the hospital. She could take her back to see Roscoe, who had been rescued with her, and to see Winnie. Perhaps she might even be able to lay eyes on Dr. Derek of Dreamland. She sighed just thinking about their coming date. It was hard to believe a man as good-looking as he was had chosen her to date. She stopped at the taco truck for lunch for her and Daisy, leaving Daisy in the car while she stood in line. There weren't many places that could get you to stand outside in March in Idaho, where it was still the middle of winter. But for Siren's Tacos, people seemed to be willing to do just about anything. She kept glancing back at the car while she was in line, worried that Daisy was crying. She thanked Siren for the tacos, then ran back to the car, laying Daisy's taco on the back seat for her. She now knew better than to buy her 2 tacos. One would always be enough. She happily munched her taco in the car and then drove to the clinic, going in and spotting Karen. You don't have an appointment, do you? Karen asked. She looked a little worried something was messed up. No, I just thought Daisy would like to visit Roscoe and Winnie. And you could see Derek again? Karen asked with a wink. Well, I'm mostly here for Daisy, Raina responded with a grin. She hurried to the back and found Haley there, talking to Roscoe with a soothing voice. I brought him a friend to visit him. Haley looked up and grinned, taking Daisy from Raina. She put the dog just outside Roscoe's kennel, and they both watched as Roscoe came out to sniff at Daisy. I think they're happy to see each other, Haley told her. I thought they would be. Raina glanced around casually, hoping to see Derek somewhere. He's in with a patient, Haley said. Oh, Joel is in with a patient? I was hoping to ask him the best way to get Daisy to be less afraid of everyone around her. Sure you were. Then Derek popped into the kennel. Did Daisy have a rough night? He looked down at the dog, who was still rubbing noses with Roscoe. Is she all right? Her night actually went really well. I put her in bed with me so I could calm her, but I left her crate on the floor beside my bed, so she could get down and sleep in there if she chose. Raina smiled down at the dog. But when I walked her a little while ago, she was doing fine until we ran into another person. Then she got scared. I can see that. Derek squatted down and carefully stroked Daisy's head. She doesn't seem to be afraid of me. You held her for me yesterday, remember? When she'd given him her number. So he could ask her out. And he had. I remember. I think it would be best if you just kept taking her for walks when you get a chance so she can be around strangers. The more she's in this situation, the better it will be for her. Raina nodded. Thank you, doctor. You're very welcome. How's the shoulder? So much better today. Your hands are positively magic. I might have to come see you at the hotel. I already want another massage. She grinned. They can sure be addictive. Derek smiled. Well, I'd better get back to work. There's another patient waiting for me. I hope to see you soon, Raina told him. Friday evening if not before, he told her, walking backward away from her. He walked straight into a wall and bonked his head on a shelf. Well, that was smooth. Very. Raina laughed. Don't worry, I have a sister who can trip on a piece of lint. I'm used to it. He rubbed his head as he walked away. I'm not. Friday? Haley asked, her eyes sparkling. He's taking me to the pub for dinner. Raina tried to act like it was absolutely normal for her to be dating the sexy new doctor, but they both knew better. Oh. I can't wait to hear all about it. I can't wait for it to happen. Raina told her with a grin. Okay, I'm taking Daisy to visit Winnie really quick, and then I'm taking her home. I think Stanley is out there with her. He's neglecting his clinic duties for that donkey. Haley shook her head. I hope he gets over being love-struck soon, because we sometimes need him in here. I'm sure he'll be back to normal as soon as he realizes she's a donkey and he's a dog, Raina said with a laugh, scooping up Daisy to carry her to the outside enclosure, where Stanley would be playing with Winnie. She can walk, you know, Haley said. Raina sighed. I should let her walk, shouldn't I? It's probably better for her to get used to running into people as she walks and not have you always protecting her. She can't get over her fears if she doesn't face them. You're right. I just like carrying her. Then carry her at home, but let her walk here. It's a safe place she knows with lots of animal lovers. Raina put Daisy onto the floor and headed for the enclosure again, watching Daisy closely for signs of fear. They ran into Joel, and she simply sniffed his foot, wagging her tail at him. Joel crouched down and petted her. Here for a visit? He picked the dog up for a second, looking her over before putting her back down. Raina nodded. She's still so scared. I was hoping you'd have some advice, but I got some from Derek and Haley already. Then you don't need any from me. I do think you should take her to Grandma's on Sunday for the party. No one will be mean to her there, and maybe the kids can lure her away from you. Good idea. Thanks, Joel. She didn't tell him she'd already been planning on it, because Joel liked to have all the good ideas, and that was just fine with Raina. Where are you going, anyway? To see Winnie and Stanley. I figured Daisy needs to be with her friends from the farm where she was rescued. Joel laughed. All right. Take her to see Winnie, and Stanley is great with her, so it'll work. You can't bring her here every day, you know. Oh, I know. She'll be home alone tomorrow. Joel frowned. Maybe you should bring her here every day. At least when no one will be home with her. She can hang out in the back with Stanley and Winnie. Do you think she needs that? Raina asked. Need? No, but it will have her around people and animals more. Maybe it'll help her fears a little. I'll bring her, then. I start work at 10 tomorrow, so I'll bring her right before that. Sounds good. I think the socializing will be the best thing for her. Thanks, Joel. Raina continued out to the enclosure, where Winnie and Stanley were walking around looking as if they were almost glued to one another. Daisy bounded over to where Stanley and Winnie were, nuzzling Stanley, who turned to her and licked her little face. The three acted as if they were long-lost friends who had been separated for years as they frolicked in the little enclosure. For a moment, Raina wondered if she shouldn't have left Daisy where she could play with the others, but after a few minutes, Stanley and Winnie were off together again, and Daisy was simply standing there, watching the other two. No, she'd made the right decision. After letting Daisy stay with the others for a few minutes, she scooped her up to carry her out of the building. But then she remembered Haley's words and set her back down, walking out with her. Daisy cried a little when she saw someone walking toward her, and she hurried to Raina, but she seemed content to walk next to her feet. Raina had to tell herself it was good for Daisy to keep from picking her up and carrying her through the clinic. She nodded at Karen on her way out, taking the dog to the car and driving her back home. It had been an adventure for both of them, but she thought it was a good one. And now Daisy would have somewhere to be while she was working instead of being home alone all day. Raina was pleased with the progress the dog was making, and she was sure she'd be fine. It would just take some time. Asterisk. By Friday night, Raina felt that Daisy was ready to be at home with just her parents that evening. Just love her, Raina said. I've fed her. She's going to need to go out a few times, but she'll let you know when. April Lynn had an amused look on her face as she nodded. I've had dogs before. I know that, but Daisy is scared. A lot. Just love on her, please. I will. Maybe you should consider just having your date here so you don't have to leave the dog alone. Raina stuck her tongue out at her mother, thinking that living under her roof, even for a short while, made her feel like a child again. I'm going to get ready for my date. When she walked to her room, she looked down to see Daisy hurrying along beside her. She was her little shadow, and she almost wished the dog hadn't come to her with a name. She would have named her Shadow, because it fit her so much better than anything else. She looked in her closet, trying to find just the right thing to wear. She loved her job, but it didn't give her a lot of options for dress. She decided on a black skirt, with her black leather boots that came to her knees and a pink sweater. It was just perfect for winter in Idaho. When she was dressed, she looked down at Daisy. Do you think he'll be on time? He's supposed to be here in 5 minutes. I wonder if he knows that my dad is going to judge him on how punctual he is. She grabbed her purse and walked out to the living room, sitting on the couch and picking up Daisy to give her another snuggle before she left. Her mother came in and sat beside her, her hand going out to pet Daisy. I can't wait to meet your date. Raina groaned. Living here makes me feel like I'm a teenager again. I have got to find a place to live soon. We love having you here. I know you do, But it's hard to live under your parents' roof when you've been on your own. I can see that. April Lynn took Daisy from Raina's lap and continued to pet her, looking at Raina with a grin. She's starting to like me. I'm glad. She needs to like more than 3 or 4 people in this world. There was a knock at the door, and Raina glanced at the clock on the wall. 1 minute early. Now that's punctual. Bob will be pleased, her mother responded, holding Daisy, who had cried at the sound of the knock. Raina went to the door and opened it wide. Come in for a minute and meet my parents. Derek nodded with a smile. I was hoping I'd get to meet them tonight. Joel has told me a lot about his aunt, the redneck witch doctor. April Lynn stood, Daisy tucked under one arm. I'm April Lynn, and I'm proud to be a redneck witch doctor. It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Quinn. Oh, please call me April Lynn. Everyone else does. Derek reached out and scratched the top of Daisy's head. It's nice to meet you. I'm the new vet at Joel's clinic. Derek Williams. He shook April Lynn's hand. Does she have a curfew? He asked in a stage whisper, earning a glare from Raina. April Lynn laughed loudly at the joke. All right, I like you. I still like Siren best because of his tacos, but you might become my second favorite. Raina shook her head. Stop encouraging her. She stepped out of the room for a moment, fetching her father. Dad, I want you to meet Derek. Derek, this is my father, Bob Quinn. So nice to meet you, Mr. Quinn. It's nice to meet you, too, Bob said, looking him up and down. I want you to know that her older brother is a Marine, and he's going to be home in just a few months. Remember that with how you treat my daughter. Derek smiled. Since her cousin is my boss, threatening me with Joel would be really effective, too. Oh, good idea. If you do anything to upset my daughter, I'll call her cousin Joel. Bob grinned. Okay, I didn't want to, but I think I like you. You should go with us to my mom's on Sunday. We're having a big St. Patrick's Day party to celebrate being Irish and Quinns. Sounds good to me. What time? Derek liked the idea of meeting the entire first family of Quinn Valley. We get there at 10. Don't worry about taking a dish, because I'll make sure to take double for you, April Lynn told him. All right. Derek looked over at Raina, wondering if she minded that he was being invited to a party with her entire family. He certainly hoped not. Raina grabbed her coat and shrugged into it, hurrying to the door. I'll be back later. Don't wait up. You know we will, April Lynn said with a smile. Raina knew her mother wouldn't really be waiting up, because she tended to write in the middle of the night, but she didn't say anything. She needed to get out of the house before her parents invited him to live with them. So sorry about that, she said when they got to the driveway. You're the first date I've had since I moved home. I have got to find a house. He laughed. I liked them. Daisy really seems to like your mom. Oh, she does, which makes it easier for me to leave her. It's funny how much I feel like a new mom with that dog. You're going to have to direct me to the pub. I haven't been yet, and I'm not sure exactly where it is. You need to take some time to explore town. It's small enough that it wouldn't take long to at least learn where all the businesses are. She knew it would be easier for him if he could figure out where everything was. I will. I'll have time this weekend. I spent every evening this week working on getting my things unpacked. He shook his head. And Joel really did need another doctor, and not just for Sweetie. She chuckled. I know he did, but Sweetie was what tipped the scales in favor of him hiring someone else. You're probably right. He hates that cat with a passion. Heck, I've only met her once, and I hate that cat. She's downright evil. I'm ready to call in a priest to do an exorcism on her. Derek shook his head. I'm still dealing with all the scratches she gave me. And it seems that her owner is a bit of a hypochondriac where she's concerned. The cat has weekly appointments. Job security? If I don't die first. He pulled into the parking lot where she directed him. Quinn's pub. Is it named after the town? Or family? My cousins own and run it. You're going to love it. I promise. Raina got out of the car, excited to show him around. She knew he was going to love the pub just as much as she did. Chapter 4. Raina felt like every eye in the pub was on them when she and Derek walked into the pub. As soon as they were inside, she turned to him. I should have chosen somewhere else to go. You're going to be under a microscope all night. He shook his head. It's going to happen eventually. Let's just get it over with. Why will it happen eventually? She asked, confused. Because I plan on taking you out a whole lot more than one time. He had his hand in the small of her back as they waited to be seated. Ivy popped over. Let me get you two to a table. She picked up 2 menus and led them to a table off to one side of the room, but right smack in the middle. I'd ask for your drink orders, but I'm not working tonight. I'm singing. Then why did you seat us? Raina asked. Because I wanted to be the first to get introduced, of course. I'm Ivy, one of Raina's 3.6 million cousins. Derek grinned. That many, huh? It only feels like that many when I'm on a date in the middle of Quinn Valley. The gang can't seem to leave me alone, Raina said. I can believe that. He looked at Ivy. I'm Derek Williams. I'm the new vet in town that Joel hired to work with him. Oh. Nice to meet you, Derek. It'll be nice for Joel to have some help. I know he's been swamped lately, Ivy said with a smile. Good to meet you, too. Do you usually work here? You said you're just singing tonight. Yeah, I'm a waitress here. My big brother and sister own the place, and I work here as part of the family business. I used to have big dreams of singing, but now I just do it here. I look forward to hearing you sing, he said with a smile, thinking it was sad she'd given up on her dreams. He didn't think anyone should ever have to do that, no matter how bad they were at their dream. It was always something to strive for. She's going to knock your socks off. Ivy doesn't belong in a small town like this. She's amazing. Raina would have said the same thing even if Ivy wasn't, but Ivy was truly one of the best singers she'd ever heard. She just wished her cousin could get over her past and move forward. Thanks, Raina. You're my favorite cousin for the next 10 minutes. Oh, I'll take it. Raina grinned. Go enjoy your night off. You're just trying to get rid of me so you can spend the night with Dr. Hot Stuff. Ivy hurried off, leaving Raina shaking her head. Did you call me Dr. Hot Stuff to your cousin? Derek asked. He'd never dreamed anyone would refer to him that way. Of course not. I have taste and I'm polite. I would never call you that. Dr. Sexy was the term she preferred. One of the waitresses that wasn't family stopped at the table, and though Raina had known the woman for years, she was thankful it was a break from being around her family. Hey, Raina. Hey, new guy dating Raina. What do you want to drink tonight? I'll take a root beer, Raina said. Water, Derek told her. After the girl had hurried off, Raina looked at Derek. Water? You make me feel guilty for not being a good girl. He laughed. As much as I love soft drinks, I know I'm healthier when I drink a lot of water, so that's what I try to do. Ugh. Please don't order a salad, because I can tell you, I'm not going to. No worries. I feed salad to rabbits. He winked at her, and she grinned back. I'm thankful for that. I always get whatever special they have going. Not sure what it is today, but I'm sure it's delicious. Works for me. I take it they never have salads as specials? Never. Their drinks arrived, then, and she sat back as they were put on the table. Thank you. No problem. What are we eating tonight? The waitress asked. I'll have the special, Raina told her. Okay. That's shepherd's pie tonight. Goes good with the Irish nachos appetizer, if you're interested in that. Raina nodded immediately. We'll split the Irish nachos. She grinned at Derek. You're going to love them. All right. I'll have what she's having. He handed the menu back to the waitress. Sounds good. I'll run to the back and let everyone know you're here with a date, Raina. Raina put her head down on the table, her forehead flat. Why did I bring you here for the first date? We should have gone to Riston for Chinese. Or Italian. Or anything but here. She had a vision of lifting her head and seeing a line stretching all the way to the kitchen of family waiting to meet him. He laughed. No one has bothered me yet. I get that you come from a big family who practically owns the town. The first few dates are bound to be crazy. She liked that he was assuming there would be more dates, because she really wanted there to be. Well, since you know all about my family, tell me about yours. Only child? One of 30? Do any families really have 30 kids? He asked, frowning. I'm the oldest of 3. I was born and raised in Montana on a ranch. That's where my love of animals started. My dad always said there weren't enough good vets in this world, so I went to school to be a vet. Simple, huh? Sounds simple enough. Are you close to your siblings? He shrugged. We were pretty close. I have 2 younger sisters, and they were more buddies with each other than they were with me. Katie is 5 years younger than me, and Grace is 6. So they were almost the same age and really gravitated together. I'm just the big brother. So what do your sisters do? They're both in college. Grace is engaged, and she'll be having a wedding soon, but Katie is still single. She's planning to be an elementary school teacher. Oh, that's cool. What grade does she want to teach? She's currently student teaching in 4th grade, and she loves it. She's not sure where she wants to end up, but she says she'll be happy with whatever grade as long as it's not over 6th. She doesn't want to have to deal with hormonal teenagers. Who could blame her? Raina asked, shaking her head. I don't even like it if a teen ends up on my massage table. They're usually whiny. So why did you decide to be a massage therapist? Raina shrugged. Since I was a girl, my mom has owned this little place in town where people would go to see her and have her help them out with her homeopathic remedies. Then we all just kind of went into alternative healing fields. Well, not Roxy. She thinks we're all absolutely nuts. But Renee is a foot zoner, and Riley works with healing crystals. I'm not sure what Bobbling is going to do when he gets out of the military, but I have a feeling it will be something to do with nutrition and personal training. Your brother's name is Bobbling? He asked, his eyes wide. Who would name their child that? It seemed viciously cruel to him. She nodded. Well, his real name is Robert, and Dad goes by Bob, so everyone started calling him a little Bobbling when he was young. Now that he's in the Marines, everyone calls him Jake, but here in town, I think he'll always be Bobbling. Please tell me Jacob is his middle name. Oh, yeah. It is. Robert Jacob Quinn. Bobbling or Jake, depending on who you ask. Their nachos were placed in the middle of the table. I think you'll love Bobbling. He's a lot of fun. Or I remember him being a lot of fun. I was only 8 when he joined the Marines. Sounds like a good guy. I can't wait to meet him. If you're still around when he gets out, you won't be able to miss him. He's a Quinn. I'm sure we'll do a huge party for him when he gets out. I can't wait to see him again. Do you need anything else? The waitress asked. Raina shook her head. Nope, but thanks. She reached out and grabbed one of the housemaid's still warm potato chips covered with gooey cheese and bacon and popped it into her mouth. Derek spent a minute looking at the concoction before he took one and chewed it slowly. I wasn't sure looking at it, but this is amazing. I know, right? I could eat this absolutely every day of my life and never get sick of it. Was it weird growing up one of the princesses of Quinn Valley? He asked, just before popping another chip into his mouth. She shrugged. I've never known anything else. There were a couple of girls in school who would make fun of me and call me princess all the time in a really sarcastic voice, but I don't think I was ever shown favoritism by anyone. The teachers sure expected us all to work as hard as everyone else. I do think the best part about being a Quinn was that there were so many of us. We almost always had 2 or 3 of us per grade, and there were always other Quinns in the school. If someone got mean, we'd stick up for each other. So were you prom queen and all that? She shook her head, laughing. I didn't even go to my prom. I was dating someone until about a week before, and I found out he was cheating on me, so I called the whole thing off. I probably should have stuck it out because I already had my dress and everything, but I had no desire to go. So you weren't the princess, then? She shrugged. I never thought I was. I was a girl struggling to make good grades like everyone else in town. There were just lots of people with my last name. I truly think that was the only difference. A shadow fell over the table, and Raina looked up, trying to stifle a groan. Hey, Ryder. This is the new vet Joel brought into town, Derek. Derek, this is my cousin Ryder. He and my cousin, Maggie, who's tending bar, own this place. Derek smiled. It's nice to meet you. These nachos are absolutely amazing. Whoever put them on the menu is a genius. That would be my wife. It's nice to meet you, Derek. Ryder raised an eyebrow at Raina, as if questioning her about their appearance together. Well, tell her that we love them, Derek said, refusing to be intimidated by her cousin. If he were Bobbling or Jake or whatever her Marine brother's name was, he would probably be quaking in his boots, but this guy? He was fine. Be good to her. Or I'll have to email Bobbling. Derek thought for a moment the other man must have read his mind, but he had no idea how. I'll take care of her. Thought you would. After he walked off, Raina rolled her eyes. Don't worry about Ryder. He's a pain. Derek grinned. I think you said that about Joel, too. All of my cousins are pains. Well, most of them. And siblings, too. I mean, I love every one of them, but no one needs to watch over me like I'm a small child they worry about. She ate another chip, shaking her head. After we eat, we're going to have to dance. Looks like Ivy is about to get up on stage. Wait until you hear her. I'm excited that she's singing tonight. Are there live bands here every night? No, not every night, but a lot of them. Ivy isn't always the one singing either, but she's so good. There's always a bigger crowd when people know she'll be on stage. Ivy stepped up to the microphone then. I'm glad you're all here tonight. I have a song that I want to dedicate to all the men in Quinn Valley. The band started up, and Ivy broke into her own rendition of the old song, Take It Like a Man. I have a feeling there's something behind that song, Derek said. Raina simply shrugged. You'd have to ask Ivy. People poured onto the dance floor as soon as she started singing. Their food was brought to the table, and Derek and Raina watched the dancing for a while. When she'd eaten as much as she could, she pushed her dish away. I love the food here, but Bethany makes such big portions, I always feeling like I'm throwing too much of it away. I can understand that. Do they have boxes? Yup, and I almost always take one home. She took another sip of her root beer, watching him work on his shepherd's pie. Do you like it? I love it. The food really is good. I think this is going to quickly become a favorite restaurant of mine. It's a good thing I can cook, or I'd end up here every night. Raina grinned. I'm sure Ryder and Maggie wouldn't mind. As if she'd heard her name, Maggie stopped by the table. Hey, you two. Nothing from the bar? Raina shook her head. You know I never touch the stuff. Not for me, but thanks, Derek told her. Raina nodded to Maggie. This is my cousin Maggie, and Maggie, this is Derek. He's the new vet Joel brought in. Yeah, I've heard. How did you two meet? Derek sighed. He was going to be telling this story a lot. I hurt my shoulder moving, and Joel needed me in top form to deal with a demon cat, so he called Raina in to work on the shoulder. And she adopted a dog from us, and she needs lots of advice. How is Daisy? Is she getting over the time she was with those awful people? Absolutely, Raina said, smiling. She stayed with Mom and Dad tonight, and she was snuggling up to Mom like they were best buddies. No luck on finding a place yet? Raina shook her head. I want to buy, so I'm looking for just the right place. Though I'm ready to pitch a tent in the hotel parking lot. I love my parents, but moving back in is harder than I thought it would be. I can't imagine, Maggie shook her head. Once you've moved out, you should never have to move back in and be a kid again. There's a lot of truth in that. Well, I'm going to get back to the bar. Good seeing you, Raina. Nice meeting you, Derek. I hope to see you around. After Maggie left, Raina shook her head. And you're going to be at the family party on Sunday. You're getting your fill of Quinns pretty darn fast. She knew he'd either be initiated well, or he'd run screaming into the night. Either way, she'd know he was worthy of being a Quinn by the end of it all. Do you mind if I pick you up and we ride over together? I don't want to be the odd man out showing up with a crowd like that. That sounds good. Get there about 9:45, and I'll show you where the grandparents live. Wait until you see Grandma's cat, Jasper. He looks like he ate 3 other cats, but there's no way he would have caught them, because he's so darn lazy. Joel complains about him all the time. He grinned. Tell me about your grandparents. Both still alive? She nodded. Yup, and they live in the same house where all of our parents grew up. Grandma Gertie is awesome. She's got this group of friends that she loves to hang out and gossip with. And Grandpa Harley is just the opposite. Slow and steady. He does what he thinks he needs to do and nothing else. I can't wait to meet them. They sound amazing. He frowned for a moment. Exactly how many cousins do you have? They really did seem to be multiplying in his mind. 21st cousins. My family does this weird thing where each child in each generation has 5 kids. It's really bizarre, but no one has missed that as far back as we've traced the family. He swallowed hard. So if I marry you, I'm having 5 kids? Well, sure. You'd have to ask first, though, and I'm not sure I could marry anyone who comes from such a small family. What would Grandma say? He grinned, shaking his head. I think it's time we danced. Chapter 5. Derek got out of the booth and offered Raina his hand, leading her to the dance floor. The song Ivy was singing was slow, and he pulled her to him, her cheek resting against his shoulder. As they danced, Raina thought she wanted to stay in his arms forever. How he was already making her feel so strongly, she didn't know, but if he never let go, it would be much too soon. The dance floor filled up around them, and she swayed in his arms. When the song finally ended, he led her back to the table. She felt bereft now that she'd lost his touch. I like dancing with you, she said with a smile. It was the understatement of the year, but it was true as far as it went. He smiled, looking just a bit shell-shocked. What kind of music do you like? He asked after a long moment of silence. Lots of different things. Ivy writes some of her own country and western, and she's just amazing at it. But I love just about everything. My collection is a little crazy. She finally met his eyes, feeling as if he wouldn't see her need for his touch in them. What do you like? Everything. He shook his head. Sometimes I wonder if you have already read my mind when you answer some of my questions. It's as if you know what I want to hear. The thing is, even if I could read your mind, I wouldn't give you the answer you want to hear. I'm too stubborn for that. Raina shrugged. I probably shouldn't be proud of it, but my mother has always told me that I'm her most stubborn daughter. It doesn't seem like a bad thing to me. He laughed. Well, at least I now know you're not telling me what you think I want to hear. You're telling me the truth. And that matters. Sure does. She drank more of her root beer that must have come while they were dancing. So how do you like working for Joel? He grinned. I honestly love being a veterinarian. I just finished my training, and this is my first real job in the field, but I adore everything about it except Sweetie, of course, and if I adored her, I'd need a psychiatrist. She laughed softly. From what Joel has told me, that's very true. Do I hear my name? Joel asked. Sorry, all the tables are full, and I figured you wouldn't mind if we sat with you. He held Haley's hand in his own. Raina slid over immediately, watching as Derek did the same. Haley slid in beside her. Sorry to horn in on your date, Haley whispered softly. No problem. Raina was almost relieved. If they were having a conversation with other people as well, she could observe him better. That dance had left her very flustered. Where's Claire tonight? She's spending the night with a new friend from school. I'm so glad she's finally making friends. Me too. It sounds like this was the right move for both of you. Have you set the date yet? Haley shook her head. At the moment, we're enjoying being engaged. How do Claire and Joel get along? As if they've known one another forever. Haley smiled. I'm a little nervous about the party at your grandma's house this weekend. It'll be my first taste of the entire extended family, if you don't count that horrible night when Claire went missing. We don't count that at all. My dad invited Derek as well, so you can both be new together. I'm going to take Daisy with me, and you know Joel takes Stanley everywhere. When you two finally have a kid, I hope that he starts leaving the dog home on occasion. Haley laughed. I'm not sure I'm ready to be a mother to anyone other than Stanley and Winnie at the moment. And Claire. Sort of. It's hard to be mom and sister all at once. I wouldn't even want to try to imagine. Raina grinned. I feel like I'm being really brave by adopting Daisy. You are. So very brave. Is she home with your parents? Yeah. Mom was holding her when I left. She does love to be held and loved on. I worried she'd never trust anyone enough to let them hold her, so I'm thrilled to hear that. Haley looked over and saw that Joel and Derek were speaking animatedly about something. Don't you think it would be fair if we took turns with Sweetie? Then we'd have time for our wounds to heal before we saw her again. Derek's hands were gesturing wildly as he tried to get his point across. Joel shook his head. I did my time with that beast. It's your turn always now. Derek sighed. We need another vet, so I won't always be low man on the totem pole. Joel laughed. Not yet. You have to earn your stripes. And I know just the cat to scratch you and make those stripes. Not funny, Joel, Raina said. I can't believe you brought Derek all the way here, just to be a scratching post. She gave her cousin the kind of look she'd always given him when they were children and he'd pull the heads off her Barbie dolls. He was 10 years older than her, but that didn't get her away from his torture. I didn't. He's also here to help out around the clinic. And to date you, apparently. Joel shook his head. I think I should have put it into your contract that you can't date my blood relatives. Why's that? Derek asked. There'd be no one in town left for me to date. Because this one keeps turning up in the clinic, and I don't need the place to be crawling with relatives any more than it already is. Raina kicked Joel under the table. Ouch. Derek said. Oops, I missed. Would you move your legs closer to the wall so I can kick my cousin, please? Raina asked sweetly. Derek shook his head. I can't help you injure my boss. What kind of employee would that make me? Joel smiled, giving Raina a mean face that could only come from a relative. See? Derek's on my side. I wouldn't go that far, but he does pay my paycheck, so I need to at least pretend to be on his side. Derek winked at Raina, letting her know he was kidding. Ugh. Maybe we should get out of here and go get some ice cream or something. Joel is cramping me. We'd happily take your table, cuz. Just for that, I'm staying, Raina announced, settling back more comfortably. I'll talk to my friend Haley and ignore you. Haley shook her head. I'm so glad I never knew any cousins near my age. I wouldn't want to have to resort to that kind of childish behavior as an adult. Raina just laughed. I'm glad you're marrying Joel, because there's no one else in the world we could bribe enough to take him on. Haley changed the subject, obviously afraid of where the topic would go from there. We left Stanley in with Winnie in the outside enclosure tonight. He was so happy to get to her. I think she likes him, too, but it's harder to tell with her. Those two are so funny. Do you think Stanley will ever figure out that Winnie is a donkey and therefore out of his league? Raina hoped he wouldn't, because they were so much fun to watch together. I'm not sure, but if he does, I don't want to be around. Stanley is always so happy and welcoming. Can you imagine how he'd be if he was mopey? Raina laughed at the idea of it. He is such a sweet dog. You know it must be hereditary, because he certainly didn't learn it from Joel. You know, I think it would be fun if we all got together and played cards one night. Do you play euchre? Haley asked. Yes, and I love it. Raina responded. We played a lot of card games growing up. Each house I lived in did things differently. Some were game playing. Some were puzzle building. You never knew what you'd get until you were there. Haley had been a foster child most of her childhood years. Did one of them teach you euchre? Raina asked. Yeah, I think I was about 13 when I learned. Well, I would love for us to play together. When? Haley shrugged. We should do it tomorrow night. Then I won't spend the whole evening fretting about meeting your whole family. And Claire is doing 2 nights in a row with this friend, so she'll be taken care of and won't feel left out. Oh, you've already met everyone individually, and we all loved you. It's going to be the same except an entire mob of us looking at you all at the same time. Raina grinned at the look on Haley's face. Don't scare her. Joel scolded. Sorry, Raina said, not looking at all contrite. Tomorrow sounds good for cards. I get off at 6, so we could do 7? Haley nodded excitedly. I'll fix supper at Joel's house. Then you can just come straight from work. I'll want to pick up Daisy. You don't mind if I bring Daisy, do you, Joel? She knew he wouldn't, but it was more polite to ask than just assume. Nope. Not if you don't mind that I'm going to kill you at euchre. I've never played, Derek said. Is that a problem? Girls against guys. Raina said quickly. Joel was the worst player she'd ever been around, but she wasn't above stacking the cards so she would win. Joel groaned. You would leave me to partner with a newbie. You'll teach him. An hour later, Derek was walking her to her parents' front door, and she felt like she was in high school again. She had to change her living situation and do it soon. The porch light had been left on for her, but she prayed that her parents weren't watching or listening. "I had a wonderful time tonight, Derek. Thank you for supper." "I had fun, too. I'll pick you up here around 6:15 tomorrow?" Raina nodded. She hadn't had a first date where she'd planned the second date in a very long time. There had been no man that seemed to be worth going out with twice. "I'll be ready." "Well, I might still be in my scrubs from work, but I'll get ready as fast as I can." He grinned. "That sounds good to me." He leaned down to press his lips to her cheek, but she quickly turned her head so their lips connected. He wasn't getting away with just a cheek kiss. He was startled for a moment, but in a good way. Wrapping his arms around her waist, he deepened the kiss, holding her close against him. When he finally lifted his head, he smiled down at her. "Good night, Raina." She grinned. "Good night." She opened the door and leaned back against it, smiling to herself. If this wasn't love, then she didn't know what was. Her mother was sitting on the couch watching her with an amused expression. "Has the love bug hit another one of my girls? You're falling fast." Raina hurried over to sit next to her mother, who had her laptop on her lap. She'd obviously been working on her book. "He's pretty special, Mom." "I can see that." Daisy was against her mother's thigh, and when she heard Raina's voice, she perked up and went over to lick Raina in greeting. "How's my little girl?" "Huh? Were you good for Grandma?" "I'm about to be a grandmother for real. I don't need to have a dog grandchild." "Ah, but look at this adorable little face." Raina held Daisy up so her mother was looking straight into the dog's eyes. "How can you resist her?" "I can't resist her, but I'm still a great deal more excited for the human grandchild I'm going to have in a few months." Raina shrugged, tucking the dog under her arm. "I can see where we're not wanted. Let's go sleep, and we'll ignore this meanie." She stopped. "When did you last take her outside?" "Only a few minutes ago." "She's good to go for the night." "Thanks, Mom." Asterisk. Raina was running through the parking lot after work the next day, afraid she was going to be late. Not that she thought it would bother Derek too much, but she didn't want him to get trapped by her father. She pulled into the driveway and saw his truck sitting there, and she groaned. He wasn't in the truck, so that must mean he was inside, talking to her parents. She hurried into the house to see him in the living room with her parents. Daisy rushed over to greet her. "I'll be ready in 10 minutes, she said, scooping up the dog and taking her to change with her. "My last client went over." Derek grinned at her back. "No worries." Her parents had asked him for everything but his social security number, but he didn't care. He understood that they loved her and wanted to keep her safe. He didn't have anything to hide. Not really anyway. When she emerged from her room, she was dressed in jeans and a sweater, and she'd thrown her coat on. "Ready?" Her father shook his head. "What's your hurry? Do you think we'll find out too much about Derek here?" "I think you'll ask too many questions, and he'll run screaming into the night, and I kind of like him." Raina leaned down to kiss her father's cheek. "We're going to Joel's, and there's no telling how long we'll be there." "Joel's, huh? Is Haley going to be there?" her mother asked. "Yes, Haley will be there. And she and Claire will both be at Grandma's tomorrow." "Good. I'll look forward to seeing them there. I'm making my lasagna." "I'm taking my appetite," Raina said with a grin. Her mother could cook one thing well, and that was lasagna. It was a treat when she took the time to make it. "See you in the morning." "There's no need to wait up." "You said that last night, too," April Lynn told her with a smile. "I'll probably listen just as well as I did then." "Love you both." Raina hurried out the door with the dog under her arm. "Just shoot me. I'm not sure how much longer I can live under their roof without going absolutely insane," she said as the door closed behind her. And you haven't found anything that appealed to you yet? Raina shook her head. Not in my price range. She buckled her seatbelt and held Daisy close. You know where Joel lives, right? He shook his head. Nope. Right behind the clinic. Drive to work, and I'll show you where to go from there. Her hand absently stroked Daisy's fur. How was your day? It was good. I drove around town some, trying to orient myself. I tried the tacos from the taco truck. They were amazing. She laughed. My brother-in-law owns the taco truck. I'd eat his tacos over any others I've ever eaten. And he's the one who makes doggy tacos, so the dog lovers can have a treat for their babies. I'm still feeling a bit overwhelmed by all the Quinns around here. Derek followed her directions to the back of the property. One of these days I'm going to take you on a date out of town, so I don't have to feel like a bug in a glass. I think that's a brilliant idea, she said softly. You tell me where and when, and you know I'll be there. She got out of the car, carrying the dog to the door, before setting her on her feet. She rang the bell and waited. I figured you'd just walk in. When you have as many cousins as I do, and they all just walk in, you never know when you're going to be interrupted. We all knock. Derek grinned. That's probably for the best. Joel opened the door to them, and she laughed immediately. Winnie was sitting on the floor in his living room, curled up beside Stanley. I can't believe you let Haley talk you into letting Winnie in the house. I can't either. This is the first time, and I have a feeling it'll be the last. Daisy hurried over to her friends, sniffing their tails happily. You ready to have your butt kicked at euchre? Raina asked, pulling off her coat and hanging it in his hall closet. I hope you're a quick learner, Williams, Joel said to Derek. I usually am. Does it matter if we lose? Both Joel and Raina turned on him with wide eyes. Does it matter? Joel asked. Would it matter if there was a nuclear strike outside the window? Derek looked back and forth between the two cousins. I'm really not sure how those things are connected. Raina shook her head. For the Quinns, everything is a competition. If one Quinn bakes a cake, then we all bake cakes to prove we're better at baking. There will be some sort of competition tomorrow at Grandma's. It changes all the time, but there will be a competition, and we will all play to win. Period. She didn't add that it was usually a cutthroat competition, because there was no need to scare him yet. Haley came out of the kitchen then, nodding emphatically. She's right. The Quinns take any kind of competition extremely seriously. It doesn't matter what. Sometimes it's fun to just stand back and watch them all. Joel shook his head at Haley. That's the wrong attitude. You never watch. You always participate so you can claim the win as your own. There's no alternative. What Joel said, Haley said, shaking her head. I guess competitions are even more important than I realized. Raina looked at Derek. You're coming at my family's invitation, so any competitions will have you on our team. Remember, we win. It doesn't matter how, as much as it matters that we win. Got it? Derek nodded, looking just a little frightened. It's not Monopoly, is it? We've done Monopoly. We've done competitions for just about everything. I have no idea what Grandma is going to have us do tomorrow, but I do know it will be epic, and the Bob Quinn family must win. Roxy is pregnant, and the win is for the baby she is carrying. Joel nodded. But it's going to be my family who wins. It has to be. Haley shook her head. Let's eat and stop worrying about who wins whatever game we're playing tomorrow. There's enough time to worry about all that tomorrow.